First story, by John Smith. It was a chilly autumn evening in the quiet town of Redwood, nestled deep in the heart of upstate New York. I had just finished my shift at the local diner when I decided to walk home, enjoying the crisp air and the rustle of fallen leaves beneath my boots. As I strolled down Elm Street, I couldn't shake the eerie feeling that I was being watched. Glancing over my shoulder, I saw a man in a dark hoodie, his face obscured by the shadows of the hood. He was walking several paces behind me, and every time I sped up, so did he. Panic clawed at my chest as I quickened my pace, my footsteps echoing loudly in the empty streets. I finally reached my small, weathered house on the outskirts of town. The faded paint and creaky porch steps greeted me with a sense of foreboding. Desperate to escape my pursuer, I fumbled with my keys and dashed inside, locking the door behind me. I rushed to the window, peeking through the curtains. The man was standing across the street, staring at my house. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could feel his menacing presence. My heart raced as I retreated into the living room, trying to think of what to do next. That night I hardly slept. The dark hours dragged on, and I kept hearing strange noises outside, footsteps, faint whispers, and the occasional tapping on the window. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, the stalker had vanished. Over the following weeks, the harassment escalated. I found disturbing notes on my doorstep, each one filled with cryptic messages and threats. My car tires were slashed, and the windows of my house were shattered. I began to feel like a prisoner in my own home, constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering when the torment would end. One evening, as I was watching TV, the power suddenly went out. I reached for my phone, only to realize it had been stolen. Panic set in as I stumbled through the darkness, searching for my flashlight. Just then, a chilling voice whispered from the shadows, "You can't hide forever, Sarah." I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The stalker was inside my house. I fumbled for the flashlight, illuminating the room. There, in the corner, stood the man in the dark hoodie, his face twisted into a sinister grin. I screamed and bolted for the door, racing into the night. The police finally caught up with the stalker, whose real name turned out to be Daniel Matthews. He had been living in a hidden crawlspace in my attic, watching my every move. As they led him away in handcuffs, his eyes never left mine, filled with a disturbing mixture of obsession and malice. Even now, long after that nightmare, I can't shake the feeling of being watched. The scars of that experience still haunt me, a constant reminder that danger can lurk in the most unexpected places. Second story, by Emily T. It was a foggy evening in the charming neighborhood of Kensington, London, where I had lived for the past few years. The old cobblestone streets and elegant townhouses exuded an air of serenity. Little did I know that the tranquility would soon give way to a nightmare. As I walked home from the local pub, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I had noticed the same man on the tube, and then again at the pub. His dark eyes followed my every move, and his presence was suffocating. I quickened my pace, my footsteps echoing in the empty alleyways. My townhouse stood at the end of a narrow, dimly lit street. Its ivy-covered facade gave it an eerie charm, but that night, it felt like a fortress under siege. As I fumbled for my keys, I glanced back and saw the man lurking in the shadows, his gaze locked on me. Fear gripped me as I rushed inside and locked the door. The following days were marked by relentless torment. My mail was filled with disturbing letters, each one containing a single word: Emily. The stalker had discovered my name. My friends urged me to contact the authorities, but I hesitated, fearing the escalation that might follow. One evening, as I settled into my dimly lit living room, the phone rang. I answered with trembling hands, and a raspy voice on the other end whispered, "I'm watching you, Emily." My heart pounded, and I slammed down the receiver. I decided it was time to involve the police. They promised to keep an eye on my street, but the stalker remained elusive. Every night, I could hear the faint sound of footsteps outside my window, and the overwhelming dread of being watched consumed me. One chilly night, as I lay in bed, I heard the creak of the floorboards outside my bedroom. My heart leaped into my throat as I reached for the lamp, illuminating the room. There, standing at the foot of my bed, was the man. His face was twisted in a grotesque smile, and he held a single red rose. Without a word, he placed it on my nightstand and disappeared into the darkness. The police finally caught the stalker, who turned out to be a disturbed individual named Michael Reynolds. He had been living in the abandoned house next door, using a hidden entrance to enter my home undetected. His obsession with me had driven him to the brink of madness. Even now, the memory of that night sends shivers down my spine. I can't forget the sensation of being hunted, of never knowing when the stalker might strike next. Third story, by Anonymous. I've always considered Los Angeles to be a city of dreams, but one fateful summer night, my dream would turn into a haunting nightmare. I had just moved into a charming suburban neighborhood, thinking I had finally found the peace and tranquility I longed for. The first signs of trouble began when I noticed a shadowy figure lurking near my car as I returned from work. I brushed it off as a mere coincidence, but soon, the encounters became too frequent to ignore. The man was tall and wiry, always dressed in dark clothing, and he never said a word. One evening, as I pulled into my driveway, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw him standing there, staring at me with unblinking eyes. Fear clenched my heart as I hurried into my house and locked the door behind me. The torment escalated from there. The stalker left unsettling gifts on my doorstep, a collection of black feathers, a shattered porcelain doll, and a photograph of me asleep in my bed. Each item was accompanied by a chilling note, written in jagged handwriting. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, unable to escape. Desperate for help, I installed security cameras around my property, hoping to catch a glimpse of the stalker. But he was cunning, always managing to stay just out of view. The footage only showed fleeting shadows and eerie silhouettes. One sweltering night, as I lay in bed, I heard the sound of footsteps outside my window. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, my voice trembling as I whispered my address. The police arrived quickly, but the stalker had vanished once again. It was only a matter of time before the stalker grew bolder. One afternoon, I returned home to find my front door ajar. I cautiously entered, my heart pounding, and discovered a chilling scene. The walls were covered in photographs of me, taken without my knowledge. Some were taken in my sleep, while others captured me going about my daily life. The police intensified their efforts, and after a relentless pursuit, they finally apprehended the stalker. His name was Mark Sullivan, a disturbed individual with an unhealthy obsession. He had been living in a hidden compartment in my attic, spying on my every move. To this day, I can't escape the feeling of being watched, of the persistent shadow that lingers in the corners of my mind. Los Angeles, the city of dreams, had become the setting of my darkest nightmare. Thank you for sticking with us through the whole video. Also, I recommend you this video you see on screen, one of the scariest on my channel. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. This helps me bring you more thrilling content every day. If this video sent shivers down your spine, let me know in the comments.